Music in film is the most significant indicator of how the audience should feel about what they see on the screen. This clip from Psycho shows one of the most iconic horror movie scenes paired with an outstanding score. However, the score alone is enough to invoke fear into a person. This makes one wonder, how would a scene like this read if paired with different music, perhaps the wrong music for what is happening on the screen? In this clip from The Purge, we see footage of people beating each other up, shooting one another, fires and explosions over Claire de Lune. It goes without explanation that this calming piece should be the last musical choice for the footage shown in this intro. Other movies featuring Claire de Lune include films like Twilight, Fantasia, so how can this piece fit so well with so many different types of films? In the example of The Purge, this is called soundtrack dissonance. Soundtrack dissonance, which appears in the background of the music of a movie scene, is a phenomenon of using songs or compositions that contrast with the general sentiment of the situation. A sad scene usually uses a slow tempo of sad music to match the mood of the scene. However, sometimes in order to play background music that follows a depressing, sad, or anxious scene, there's a case of inserting music with an opposite atmosphere, such as bright music, exciting music, a fast tempo music, or magnificent music. The method of presenting music that is contrary to the mood of the scene is a kind of psychological technique that inflicts a kind of mental shock on the audience and makes them remember a particular situation. Korea science. In recent years, the film genres that have gotten the most praise for utilizing soundtrack dissonance are horror and action movies. But to understand why these music picks are unfit for these types of films, we must first understand the more conventional music for these genres. Horror movies are more often than not known for their excellent use of sound and music to scare the audience. Horror movies are referenced for their iconography and uniqueness, as these scores alone can invoke fear and uneasiness into someone. Some of the most iconic and terrifying horror movie scores include Jaws, Suspiria, Halloween, Friday the 13th, and The Thing. Action movies, like horror movies, include intense scenes paired with fast, intense music, and contain scores reflecting the severity of what is happening on the screen. Superhero movies and the like include scores often similar to one another, using a specific formula to create intensity and pressure to reflect the plot. Scores including The Dark Knight, Total Recall, Avengers, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Inception. work their way to an intense climax, using orchestral music to create a feeling of great impact and importance. Using soundtrack dissonance in these types of films completely breaks the mold of what we are used to hearing. Where we are used to hearing intense, scary music to match the intense, scary visuals, we now hear bright, happy music matching the same intense and scary visuals. A great example of this in a horror movie is American Psycho, when we see Patrick Bateman kill Paul Allen to Huey Lewis in the News song, Hip to Be Square.
At least this. 4. Their most accomplished album. I think their undisputed masterpiece is Hip to Be Square. A song so catchy, most people probably don't listen to the lyrics. But they should, because it's not just about the pleasures of conformity and the importance of trends. It's also a personal statement about the band itself. Hey, Paul! Ah! Strike that reservation endorsement now, you fucking stupid bastard!
In this scene, we see soundtrack dissonance in its prime, a violent and gruesome murder by axe, while a fun 80s pop song plays throughout the penthouse. The choice to play Huey to this scene puts us not in the mindset of fear that Paul Allen likely feels, but rather a joyous mindset that Patrick Bateman feels by killing his enemy. The irony of the lyrics, Hip to Be Square, playing as Bateman kills Allen over something as superficial as a reservation at Dorsia, but the music itself brings the audience relief as Paul Allen is murdered, putting us in the perspective of the killer rather than the victim in this horror film. Action and adventure horror movies are high stakes and dangerous, and the majority of the time people will be killed throughout the film. Baby Driver, released in 2017, was critically acclaimed mostly for its soundtrack and use of music, specifically its use of soundtrack dissonance. The song Tequila by the Champs is a popular song for parties, karaoke, and dancing, but here Edgar Wright uses it instead in a shootout scene.
Somebody getting ready to barbecue me. I'm gonna throw him in a best shit. Get him! Baby, don't let him get away. Do something! Oh, shit. Get us out of here, baby. Let's move. Come on, let's go. Move.
Using this song, especially timing the beat so well with the shooting of firearms, is extremely satisfying to watch. However, by using soundtrack dissonance here, we are losing something. It's easy to get lost in the beat of the song and the cool shootout. Characters kill everyone that gets in their way. And this makes it easy to forget that people are dying. Gun violence is now aestheticized for the purpose of the scene and the film, but is no longer about the dangers of violence and guns, but rather about how cool the scene looks with the fun song. Edgar Wright is an amazing aesthetician, but a horrible director as he's further desensitizing his audience to violence and death. The same can be said for the most well-known and talked about movies of all time, Pulp Fiction. The scene that I will be talking about is so disgusting and disturbing that I will not be showing it. Instead, to further understand the juxtaposition between the music choice and the scene, here's a clip from the official music video of My Sharona by The Knack that is played over the scene. Believe it or not, the song is played in this film while a man is being raped by two strangers who have kidnapped him and his business associate. In my opinion, this is an example where the use of soundtrack dissonance is completely inappropriate. Tarantino's choice to do a rape scene in this movie is already an outlandish and strange choice, but to put music behind it is totally erasing the trauma that these men have suffered, as well as the weight of the wrong that is being done in this scene by having the rapist play the song as they commit these atrocities. This scene is a case where soundtrack dissonance doesn't work, and it serves no purpose other than to traumatize in an attempt to lighten a situation. On a much lighter note, one of the better uses of soundtrack dissonance comes from the 2011 horror comedy Cabin in the Woods.
As soon as you are able, woman, I am willing to make the break that we are on the brink of. My cup is on the table, my love is spilling, waiting here for you to take and drink of. So if you're
I wish that I could do what you do.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's masterful.
Oh, I don't know. You know, tonight was solid. I don't know. Are you kidding? Classic denouement when the van hits the lake.
I screamed.
Right?
And the water rushing in and the sound.
Primal terror.
I just think it would have been cooler with a merman.
Do you know if we get the overtime bonus on this?
This song is used in this scene as the perfect bridge between what is happening to one of the main characters and how people react to it. Cabin in the Woods uses soundtrack dissonance for humor and irony, and to make a statement on office jobs and the evil that occurs when bosses exploit people for the greater good. The use of this song also happens to bridge together the two worlds and scenes as we pan away from the girl being murdered, and now we see it happening on the screen in the background of the party, as all the office workers celebrate her death in a victory in appeasing the gods. Soundtrack dissonance, while often praised for its uniqueness and boldness in film, should be taken with a grain of salt. We need to remember that what we are watching is not always bright and happy, despite what the mood of the music playing to it is. Mismatched music and film can be fun, new, and interesting, however, it may sometimes lead to a further desensitization to violence on and off the screen.